Welcome back to 4029 News on the Record. We are going to continue our conversation with Libertarian candidate for State Senate District 34, J.P. de Villiers. Now, sir, what do you think you can do as a Libertarian in the Senate versus what a Republican or Democrat could do?
So, it's a really good question. I believe that we need a third party, and I think that we have a supermajority in the Little Rock Senate, right? So it's a 28-7 Republican Senate at the moment. I think it's very hard for Republicans to make a difference when they are required to meet their party needs. And so I think that as a third party or a Libertarian candidate, I think I'll have the opportunity to put things on the table and to raise the conversation to things that might not be possible for somebody in the Republican Party to do. Honestly, I believe that our voices are not heard. I think our representatives firstly represent their party before they represent our constituents. A great example for me about that is just we've been with our taxation, right? We've got a $1.6 billion surplus in the Senate, in the state budget. The folks who are in power or representing us at the moment have been there for many, many years, and this is what they've done. And people, they're asking us to vote for conservative leadership. I don't know how big government and big budgets is now considered conservative. And so I think we need a third-party person in there who can actually table some things that others just simply can't because of their position. Taxation in this climate, especially when people are finding it difficult to make ends meet, or at least keep their standard of living, is a huge issue for the state. If the Tax Foundation as a tax watchdog, shows that Arkansas is the highest tax state in the region. We're also we're top 10 in the country for business taxes. And so we need to remove taxes. And I know Asa Hutchinson and them have been trying, and slowly, 0.5% at a time, bringing us down. I think we need to do it quicker, and we need to do it faster. And sorry, you were going to say something?
Well, no, I did want to talk about the abortion debate before we run out of time. Now, after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, Arkansas's trigger law went into effect, virtually banning all abortions. Arkansas, one of the toughest states on abortion. What are your thoughts as a Libertarian on this?
So Libertarian or not, right? I do not believe that you can legislate your way out of an abortion debate. Mm-hmm. I think that I'm glad that Roe v. Wade was reversed. I think it belongs at a local level. Mm-hmm. I think that it's an individual choice, and we have a trigger law that's gone into effect, and that's what we need to deal with. I think there are a lot of questions about this law, and I think that my role in working with this would be to bring some amendments to it. I think there are certain cases which a lot of pro-life people, pro-choice people, everybody agrees with, should be an option for somebody to make their own choice with. And our law is very hard, that it's only to save the life of the mother. And they are, and I don't need to repeat all the examples, but there are issues with when a baby's born and its brain is outside of its skull, all these kind of things. And so I think there are some situations where we need to start relaxing the law a little bit. It is, as everybody understands, it is the will of the people in the district and the state. But I don't think it covers everything that needs to be thought through.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today on 4029 News on the Record. We appreciate you joining us during this busy time. And we are talking to Libertarian candidate for State Senate District 34, J.P. de Villiers. And thanks for joining us this week for 4029 News on the Record. Ahead of the November elections, we want to know what issues are most important to you as the voter. Email us at ontherecord@4029tv.com and visit our website 4029tv.com for more political coverage. We'll see you next week, same place, same time, as we continue our conversations with area newsmakers.